benefits. Joining me right now is North Dakota Senator, member of the Senate Armed Services and Budget Committees, Kevin Cramer. Great to see you, sir. Thanks very much for being here, Senator.
Thank you.
Tell me about this jobs report on Friday and whether or not you do believe that was indicative of all of these benefits as a disincentive for people to go back to work.
Well, Maria, to not realize that it would be to expect to get in the shower and not get wet. I mean, we could see this coming. We predicted this would happen. It's a perverse incentive. When you pay people to not work, that becomes a pretty good incentive to not work. So what I've heard from multiples of employers in North Dakota last week during the state work week, I heard from employers as well as financial institutions that workforce is the biggest issue right now, that they are getting hundreds of applicants for jobs, most of whom don't show up for the interviews because they just are checking the box so they can get their unemployment benefits. And that's just not appropriate in this economy. And not to mention, it's just bad ethics.
Yeah, so you're giving it up, and you're among 3 or 4 states to do so. Look, President Biden's budget is likely going to drop next week for the next year. He met with Senator Joe Manchin at the White House yesterday to talk about spending, just days after West Virginia senator said that the size of the proposals make him very uncomfortable. Can you talk to us about what you're expecting from the budget? Biden is going to be meeting with congressional leaders and Senate Republicans later this week. And the Wall Street Journal editorial board noted that the spending should be going to a new op-ed should be going toward energy infrastructure. The Biden administration should be putting money into shoring up cyber vulnerabilities, but instead it's using the infrastructure label to remake the energy economy, it writes, squeezing fossil fuels, making the grid more vulnerable, not less. Senator, what are you expecting the priorities to be, and where should the priorities be? We don't have the money in the cyber vulnerabilities that we are seeing that are so obvious. We also are not seeing any increase in defense spending.
Right. So great questions. And starting with defense, we ought to see an increase in defense spending for multiples of reasons, one of which is, of course, the near-peer competition that we face with China and Russia, and that a lot of that defense spending is not just it shouldn't just be submarines and ships and missiles and airplanes, but also on the cyber side of things and on the energy front. The great thing about a lot of this, Maria, is that the private sector is prepared to make investments, particularly in the energy infrastructure, that make America more energy secure, that make the world more energy secure, and quite honestly help starve places like Russia. I mean, we have just in the last couple of months increased our oil imports from Russia into the United States as a result of Biden policies. What we ought to be doing is shoring up the security, the cybersecurity of this infrastructure, as well as releasing some of these regulations that make it difficult for investors to invest in our own infrastructure. And by doing all of that, you're going to see capital flow, you're going to see the United States become the investment choice again, and you're going to see our allies rely on the United States for their energy resources rather than rely on Vladimir Putin for energy resources. There's so much upside if we do it right. With regard to what I would expect coming from the White House, I hope that it's not going to be more of the same, doubling down on more borrowing, more spending on social programs, when we could be investing in an infrastructure package that has as its primary purpose the profitability of the private sector, the movement of goods and services, the global competitiveness of the United States, creating all of these jobs to build it out and to maintain it, while at the same time having an infrastructure that facilitates a growing economy.
So we'll see. Are you expecting any of that to materialize, or do you think it's going to be a further focus on a green economy and no increase in defense spending, no increase in any money towards cyber vulnerabilities?
Well, remember that some of defense spending is also infrastructure, particularly with our shipyards and our Navy ports along the coast. There can be a lot that can be done there that's necessary. I don't know what to expect, except that if it all depends on which Joe Biden shows up. If the former senator, former vice president, deal maker who wants to reach across the aisle and gain consensus shows up, then I think there's hope. I will say this for the administration on the infrastructure front. They have been reaching out. I think on the committee that I sit on, I'm the ranking member of the Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee on EPW. The chairman is Senator Ben Cardin from Maryland, very good, reasonable, Democrat. Tom Carper, the chairman of EPW, Shelley Moore Capito, the ranking Republican, work very closely together. There's a history of bipartisanship with infrastructure. I'm willing to look beyond even the norms, if you will, of financing a lot of this. But remember, there's a lot of unspent American Rescue Plan dollars and CARES Act dollars that if we could repurpose, I think we could go bigger even than what the Highway Trust Fund and some of the other more traditional sources of revenue provide. I'd like to have that discussion, and they've been reaching out, and I'm encouraged by that.
Okay. Well, that's certainly encouraging. Real quick, Adam Gillette, jump in here.
Well, it's so outrageous when the media tries to pretend that Joe Biden is this average Joe down-to-earth guy. Yeah. He knows nothing about the job market because he's a career politician. All he knows about employment is that his son has no problem getting jobs on Ukrainian energy boards or any other matter. We're taking money from business owners and paying their employees not to work, and that has to stop.
There's no question
Senator?
about that. I mean, that's a pretty obvious perverse incentive, as I said up front. I didn't like it when they did it in the first place, the first go-around, when they added to it and continued to extend it and expand it. And this is why, unemployment benefits are largely run by the states. Traditionally, that's the way it's designed to be. So I'm very pleased that Governor Doug Burgum from North Dakota, Greg Gianforte next door in Montana, others are pushing back now and saying, no, we need to get our economy going. We need people to work. That's the way that our system is built. And plus, it's just healthier. It's healthier for everybody's mental psyche. It's healthier for our bodies. It's healthier for our economy. And it sends the right signals into the marketplace. So you're exactly right. And it's time to end it.
Senator, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much. We'll be watching all the developments. Senator Kevin Cramer this morning in D.C.